All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, Looks like we are good to go this morning. Just checking the audio levels here. Testing, testing. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, so um, happy Wednesday to everybody. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. It is October 26th. And as you can see, I have a hat on my hat. So starting off this Wednesday session, I figure we take a look at the SPX expected move, kind of our mid-week quantitative analysis of how much volatility has been priced into the market, and are we starting to see degrees of testing those boundaries. I would argue that since we're in a bullish sort of reversal and a little bit of a breakout on some time frames, we do see that the market was able to advance right into the upper bound of the expected move, plus or minus a point or two here or there, but we are skirting the upside of that risk level. And this is, of course, on the heels of earnings. So we saw a little bit of a more enthusiastic pricing of some of our tech and larger market cap names yesterday. The likes of Tesla, Apple, all of them had pretty consistent upside, a lot of trending activity on the intraday session. And what that's done is it's run us into our expected move for the week. Now, I want to note here that while the market currently is within these boundaries, and it kind of feels as if, that's a good model for volatility, it's also true that we move this amount in 2 days. So the purpose of looking at these levels is to try and understand how much range are we to expect in the week. And what we're seeing more often than not is the market will run to the upper or lower bounds fairly quickly. And then, of course, there will be things like skirting that risk level, usually more flat or less volatile trade, along with the evaluation of whether or not we're going to have a breach. And I think if the earnings had come out a little differently, if there was more of a bullish lean in stocks like Microsoft and Alphabet, the breach could have easily occurred. And as I've been saying, this area of the market is very wound up in its open interest, especially on S&P products. So it's interesting to see that we already pushed the boundary of price volatility this week. I think had things been a little different, we would have been looking at a very wild opening this morning. But now that we're kind of returning, it's a little bit more of a normal reduction back into this boundary, and we'll likely see some consolidation and obviously another daily pullback in this daily uptrend. So just kind of noting some levels of interest for the S&P before we shift into some of the earnings that did report this afternoon and this morning, last afternoon, this morning. Obviously, the big level that the market was able to clear was this pivot. And this is just breaking the pattern of lower highs and lower lows. Once the market is able to breach that and basically confirm outside, it can pull back in, but ultimately the pattern itself is broken. So we have to trust to some degree the trend that's in front of us relative to the previous trend, because we are looking at a corrective wave at this point in time. Some interesting ideas for future pullbacks is, now that we know this is a daily uptrend, we do have a speculative downside trend line. We've got 2 points of connection. Those are going to be areas of buy interest in the future. And if the market does pull back into them, we'll want to look for reactionary plays against that trend line, essentially to form the third connection and potentially another swing high off of it. Doesn't necessarily have to, but when you only have 2 points of connection, it becomes a zone of possible buy interest in the future. And then, of course, where are we trading relative to some other historical zones, and especially in the volume profile? What is sort of our structure up here? I would say there's definitely some interesting spikes back in, this would be mid-September. This zone of the S&P was fairly balanced for a couple of days. We had about 3 to 4 sessions inside of this zone. If you kind of zoom in here, oops, do this a little differently. This area right here, it's still a little zoomed in, but this area right here is essentially a balance range. It's a very short-term one, but the market was not necessarily advancing or declining. It was trading sideways. And that usually puts up a little bit of a transactional interest in that area, so long as enough volume trades it. So one of the easiest things you can see is we did breach into that, that balance range. There was a gap. That balance range was able to fill up that gap. So the high side would be essentially the highs of that candle. And then if you're looking at sort of your mid levels, those tend to form not only central in there, but if you pull up a volume profile and maybe reduce the time to about 30 days, you'll see sort of the area, the bell curve of that balance range and the volume node that we were able to achieve yesterday. Usually when you're getting to oversold and overbought conditions, the market can pull in to these areas simply because they are transactionally relevant for the market. So for now, given that we are kind of channeling back to the upside, I did mention how this is probably the most likely way for us to start recovering price. And while it's not perfect, you can see that we're starting to anchor a little bit of our swing highs relative to an upper trend line. It's not a perfect channel. It does have a little bit of a lean inside of price, but we're seeing some of our more dramatic sell-offs near these highs. And it kind of showcases a little bit of how you should behave as a trader. So long as this channel is being respected, we're going to likely continue to see some wider drawdowns. You know, the pullbacks will look more dramatic than something that might be a more stable trend. And then secondly, if we are to sell this market or be short biased, we'll likely want to set up those trades near these highs. It'll feel a little weird because you're selling into strength, but it is where the edge of a channel is. And unfortunately, when you sell and buy channels, you have to always be careful of the bias. So for example, this is a bullish channel. Bullish channels are technically a bit more lenient on the bullish plays. So you want to be trying to buy closer to the lower bounds of the channel and just experiencing the trend that's in front of you. Being a bear in a channel is a little bit more tricky because sometimes those trends to the top can actually bust through temporarily. And those are usually the things that stop people out initially before seeing a larger sell swing. It's usually a break and fail kind of structure at channels, on channels. So a little bit of technical know-how. Yeah, this is the SPY, Marcus. So I'm really just looking at the market as a whole. So a little bit of technical know-how. Remember, some of this comes from our analysis of 2008. It's not to say this is how all bounces and recoveries look, but if we're using that model, that's how the market recovered during that time of, um, I would say, inflection, the inflective low that we're trading against. So I know this is getting a little busy in regards to its trend lines, but you really don't need these lower bound ones anymore. You might want to assess the breakout levels if we ever get back to them. So this one is relevant. And then, of course, the channel and a little bit of this balance range, that's probably all you need for the S&Ps moving forward. So let's go ahead and shift into earnings, and then we'll quickly talk about just some movement in the dollar. But I think for the most part, we've kind of nailed that analysis, and it is coming to fruition. So a little bit of the earnings right now. First and foremost, let's start with Microsoft. I think we have to use Microsoft as a gauge of volatility today because it is essentially the second largest name in the S&P. If you're unfamiliar with how the S&P is constructed, you look at a breakdown of the market cap weighting in this particular ETF. Stocks like Apple represent about 7%. Microsoft is right behind at about 5.75. Even Alphabet, which is comprised of two separate entities, two classes of shares, that usually comes in at close to 3.5 to 4%. So it is larger than Amazon as a collective, but it's not larger than Microsoft. So the two stocks that reported essentially are number 2 and number 3 for the S&P. Therefore, they should be those stocks that you focus on today if you are trading S&P names and have any sort of correlation expectation for the market. So Microsoft did report. We saw indication that things were not only slowing in some of their PC related sales. Those are going to be mostly impacted from strength in the dollar, a little bit of the international sort of supply demand dynamics, and really just general demand destruction that we're seeing currently as people are kind of preparing for a little bit of hardship in the future. And I'll kind of shift back to that, Marius. I thought it was Marcus, sorry, Marius. Microsoft also mentioned things like reduction in some of their service growth. And this was something that I was a bit cautious of. I was expecting this to be the real surprise for Microsoft, because the narrative recently has been that service related industries, in Microsoft's case, it's got a cloud platform, Azure. It's got software as a service. All of its office suites kind of products are technically service-based at this point. And anything to do with app-related sales, it's kind of coming from the Xbox environment. Those industries inside of the company, those areas of the company, are some of the growth factors. And while PC is a core business unit, it is highly sensitive to, economic conditions. So this particular company has actually seen slowdown in some of those service related areas. And I think the market itself was somewhat expecting that downside. I think we saw a little bit of that inside of the larger open interest to the put downside. There definitely was some play at 250, but that's where we closed. So if the market had rallied, for example, to 270, that range was a bit more of your bullish lean. But there was a spot to the upside at 270 if this particular product rallied. Now that we're seeing it back to the downside, I think for now we want to look and see, is it within the expected move? The answer right now is it's right on the verge of being outside of it. Anywhere from $11 to $12 expected move. If you're looking at a 250 straddle, it's about $12. So that's kind of where we get those numbers from. And if we're looking at where it's about to open, 235 is about $15 outside, 15 total dollars to the downside. The thing that kind of worries me today is Microsoft had a rally into this earnings. And similar to the S&P, you think about the structure here, this is a channel. It's speculative, just like the S&P was, but it had potential to be a little bit of a further extension. And that's where you can kind of speculate these moves, like every time we make a low to high move, how much room do you have for the second leg? Whenever this price reverted back to the lows, I'm a little concerned with the change in trend. Breaking the swing low would technically end this short-term trend. But additionally, there are bulls in the past couple of sessions that are now underwater. Those bulls and some of the unloading of little to no profit or basically a loss, they'll be some of the drivers back to the downside. And when I look at this chart, it offers $5 to $10 of additional downside. You think about what that can do to the S&P if a stock like Microsoft does sell an additional $5 to $10. That's certainly going to be a bit of a concern. Now, obviously, we can support at the swing lows. It is the initial support on trend structures. Anytime you make a new high, you come back in. Lots of things can form here. I mean, it's hard to speculate price. It could go something like this, and this could be the full session today, a rally into about 240 or the swing high from before, and then it can turn corner later. Doesn't have to do it in one fell swoop, but that is the concern today. It's a killing of the trend momentum, and therefore, what are bulls going to do with their positions today? Along with, will we see some bears kind of hop on and try and push this much lower? So that's the technical, a little bit of the quantitative, and the fundamental. It's hard to give you much more information than that, but the last thing I'll say is when you're thinking about your trade today in Microsoft, be thinking about how the option market operates. This particular product does not trade in dollar strikes. It trades in $2.50 strikes. So if you're able to stay within a trade somewhere at one of these $2.50 intervals, some of your targets should be related to the next series strike. So let's say Microsoft is a short at 235. One of the easiest targets to look for would be another $2.50 move to the downside. Regardless of the candles and some of the support structures, a lot of the movement today is likely going to be driven by these participants, the ones that had already traded into earnings and are therefore going to start making decisions about how their earnings play worked. The idea that it's a binary type of event. As we shift into Alphabet, this narrative remains true here. And the idea is that this particular product is a dollar-wide strike series. So unlike Microsoft, which was fairly tiered the whole way down and did have some open interest a bit higher on the call side, but it would have to kind of recover back into the expected move. Stocks like Alphabet are within their expected move. It was pricing about $6.5. And if we look at the 104 and 105 straddles, a 680 premium, about $7 at the max, and a 105, about the same price, so about $7. If you look at where we are, we've gone down about $6 to $7, depending on where we decide to open. Similar concept here, though. Google has the characteristic of a recovery trend, a trend coming off the lows and trying to essentially flag back to the upside. The earnings has killed some of that momentum. We are trading pretty much at the swing lows. I look at the low end of this candle, 97.72. It's kind of the last line of defense on the trend. And the question is, are bulls simply just going to let it go? Same argument though, extension, pullback, possible extension, kind of the same wave, a lot of Elliott kind of concept and fib concepts here. But ultimately, now that we're back at the lows, are we going to bounce and then die off later, some sort of true reversal? Or is the killing of that momentum enough to get us to sell off further? And that's, of course, if we sell. It's very hard to tell what the actual behavior of the stock is going to look like today, who's going to be sort of the dominant force. I'll let the open tell me that. But as far as what to plan for, some things that are looking to be downside pressure are going to be things like rejection at the 100 print. That would be a recovery from our current prices. Additionally, 95. And yesterday's rally in Alphabet was focused on 95 before the price had increased a couple of additional dollars. Essentially, if Alphabet had closed around where it opened, 95 was the $7 move. It should have been somewhere around 102 at yesterday's open. But of course, we did rally yesterday on the session. So these open interest nodes remain, and they're the heaviest component of the option series for downside plays. As far as the actual earnings report of this company, I think the main thing to focus on was the YouTube ad revenue. We were seeing some metrics that were showing the growth of that starting to come off. There was a big boom and bust cycle for ad revenue in both last year and also just after the pandemic sort of isolated a lot of content creators to make content, and usually ads benefited from that. But additionally, there was a lot of mania sectors last year that provided a lot of ad revenue, and those sectors were willing to pay very rich premium for the ads that they were generating. So things like crypto was one of those mania sectors that had a lot of potential for ad growth, and facilitated it for those who were advertising. Additionally, just content creators in general making content about these interesting sectors that were obviously very bullish and had a lot of growth in them. So now that that's starting to unwind, and obviously the narrative is a bit different, we're seeing the numbers start to reflect that as well. It's actually coming through in these companies' earnings, and the stocks are taking a little bit of a hit from it. So those two are the ones to probably watch the most for today. I think you also would want to pay attention to Boeing. Really nice pre-market trade going on. We're seeing nice $10 moves, 140 to 150, a sell swing into the reaction, a full bounce, a move back to the middle. I mean, what's not to love here? This thing's moving around all over the place. So Boeing seems like a great trader today. Just kind of know your expected move. It's about $7. We closed at 146 to 147. So bulls would like to see it above 150 to kind of experience more of that potential upside. Bears obviously would have wanted to see it a little bit below 140, probably closer to 138, 139. But well, technically 146 to 140 is the full expected move. So it actually bounced pretty close to its expected move. That's notable. TXN as well, chip maker, little bit of a more resilient name in the chip maker space. The percentage drawdown this year has only been about 15 to 16% from yesterday's prices. It's obviously taking a little bit of a slide this morning, and you compare it to not competitors, but similar names in the semiconductor or names in the semiconductor space. It's not experiencing the same drawdown. It's not as cyclical as some of the GPU providers. About an $8 expected move. So we're pretty much on those boundaries as well. You know, these might look like dramatic moves, but the option market is pricing them in. So it's doing a pretty good job paying the appropriate amount for the insurance of earnings. So, and last but not least, I'm going to shift back to Marius. So I think with channel trading, it's always going to be about what does it take for you to enter a trade. I will say that the most aggressive channel trade concepts are going to be entered as soon as the trend line is met. So for example, you didn't really know that this bottom trend line was here until it formed, but you could make a claim and simply say, this has potential to turn into a higher low. Whenever I see any reaction, I will assume that the low being formed is my stop. And I will take a long somewhere in this candle, obviously to catch a trend leg. I think you can be the same way on the top side, but remember, we're in a bullish uptrend, at least on the daily. So it's like more ideal to see something like a 2 or 3 candle pattern into resistance. And a good resistance point would be something like this balance range high, which kind of falters near that high. There's not a lot of interest much higher than these prices, along with the channel being touched and losing a short-term trend. So for example, let's say we were in, an hourly uptrend was probably something that formed over time. Did we lose the hourly uptrend? No, but we are forming potentially a lower high. So there's obviously a bit of a bearish presence up here in regards to the aggressive nature and the collapse of earnings. That obviously was the trigger. And then we now have the potential for a lower high, which of course needs to break that low to really change the trend. It is a price trend, and remember, changes in short-term trends turn into consolidations on longer-term timeframes. So it's a note here as to it's a bullish channel, so you'd rather be in the direction of the trend. If you're going to fade it, it might take a little bit more setup in time. And on channels, you have to be cautious of breaches. So right now we're assuming this is the top of this channel move. Technically, it could go a little higher, still hit another resistance point, and then fall. Kind of like a failed breakout look. So that's usually the best way to consider trading channels, and obviously your risk profile will matter. Okay. So with that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Hopefully everybody's been enjoying this earnings season. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave comments as necessary. Stay tuned for pre-market prep, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the PreMarket Prep. I hope you're having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had a great day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How are you doing today?
Hey, good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good as well, my friend. Glad to hear that, and looking for an interesting day today as we see a bunch of stuff happening on this morning. So, uh,
Absolutely.
quick look at our gappers list today. Before we even get started, guys, big thumbs up for Jared, engineering the markets Monday through Thursday. We appreciate that very much. Just giving you a macro overview of how things are laying out for today, the weekend, just overall trend stuff. So, if you missed it, he starts at 8 a.m. You can definitely catch him tomorrow again. Guys, let's take a look here. Gappers list. A couple of things in the green, which looking at these ticker names, I know they are not great intraday traders, especially that EDU one. So we'll look into details, but not looking forward to those. Now, on the downside of things, now here looks a lot more interesting. Microsoft, Google, of course, Meta, and some other names, Snap, Nvidia, all down today. A lot of earnings placed last night that obviously didn't do well and are dragging things down. So, Norm, let's look at what we had yesterday, then we'll get to those. We'll look at Baba this morning. Our list included Baba, UPS, Apple, Tesla, CLF, and PayPal. Starting with Baba yesterday, you did get a real nice move here on Baba. Beautiful sell off in continuation. So if you see the start of the day here, automatically showing you a lot of weakness. Look at this candle. This is a lot of selling pressure there. And then just look at the drop and continuation you get out of that. You're not going to catch it here. It's very tough to trade these. But you get good confirmation that this thing does not want to go above the VWAP. And then look at the continuous drop all the way down to 61.25 or so. From here, you do get a little bit of a bounce. You do trend higher, though, towards the end of the day, but nothing like that initial drop there on Baba. Let's take a look at UPS, also taking a dive as well. Try to stay above the VWAP, cannot, loses the moving averages. And look how great this drop here. And we talked about this yesterday on the webinar Andrew held about the 920 trade. Some good ones, so some great examples there. The recording should be up today if you missed it last night. And you can see here how great UPS traded, right? And we talked about UPS not being a great trader, but on days like these where they have earnings, where they have news, they can trade very well. And you saw that yesterday. Here's Apple. Apple, on the other hand, was strong. They give you a tough time here because it came below the VWAP. So it looked weak for a second. Then this candle comes out of nowhere, taking you all the way to the high of the day. From there, I mean, although it trended nicely, it didn't really move a lot. A lot of the big move for the entire day was done here. From there, it crawled a little bit higher, but it wasn't like a great move like you saw on other tickers yesterday. Tesla, same thing, guys. Look how strong this was out of the gates. Just took off a couple opportunities here. Never really looked back. I mean, this thing was on fire yesterday. CLF, we knew this thing could be choppy, and I was watching the price action on this. And man, it was just brutal. It was nothing great about it. It's just the volume died down pretty quickly as well. So I was not a big fan of that one. And then here's PayPal. PayPal gave you some pre-market action with some news that broke out. Did run at the pre-market open at the bell, but it just kind of hung out this range. Didn't really move a whole lot after that. So I'm sure the stuff will be active for a couple of days as they have a really good catalyst going on this morning. With that said, let's take it right to the overall market pulse and what's going on this morning with all the fun stuff happening.
Yeah, I mean, no, real econ data that's going to come out today that's going to do much. We know new home sales are soft. Mortgage demand has just plummeted. It's I think down 50% year over year currently. Housing market is in a recession. No doubt about that. Trading goods came out a few minutes ago. Hasn't done anything. The big news. Couple of things. We've got massive earnings week with some really big players. Mega caps reporting this week. Some reported last night, and we'll get more today and tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got the GDP number, first read on GDP from third quarter. Excuse me, sorry, I usually mute my phone. Um, what? And then Friday we've got PCE, last inflation read we'll have before the FOMC meets next week. Yeah, so we're gapping down primarily on earnings this morning.
Yep, that is the trend right now as we look at our gap down list building up here. All right, guys, let's get to it. Let's see what's on our list this morning. I'm going to remove some of the names here. Also, did you guys look at Snap yesterday? I didn't have it on my list, but we were talking about this in the webinar. Man, what a pop! I mean, this thing almost closing the gap here. Well, not almost. You got a little bit to go, but you can see it reached a very nice level of around $10, $9.99 or so. But again, pretty nice pop on Snap there yesterday. So we'll be on the lookout for that. EDU this morning up 10%, guys. We've seen this ticker before. It's a Chinese education company, and it just trades horrible.
Yeah.
Very light
Had
value.
earnings.
It did? Okay.
It had earnings, but I don't like this ticker. Like you were saying, it's the trashiest of the Chinese stuff.
Yeah. There's better things to trade out there. It's just, yeah. I think we spoke enough about it. It's just not good. Here's RUM this morning. This is Rumble.
Rumble.
Was wrestling? What is this? Wrestling? I don't know.
This is the video platform.
Oh, the one that's trying to be like YouTube. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I know.
Uncensored version of YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. So this thing here is up 6.5 right now. Again, I'm not a fan. Very light volume. Pre-market's all over the place. Yeah, these two are not great today. Let's see what's going on with our gap down list this morning. We'll find better stuff in here for sure. Looking at STX. This is down
Seagate.
9.3. Seagate, yeah.
News,
earnings?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've actually got two catalysts. They had earnings, which were, so this company makes data storage, and a lot has to do with cloud, and then others. So they reported not great as far as reports go that came out this morning. On top of that, they also there's also news that the U.S. alleges Seagate broke export rules to sell Huawei hard drives. That is a rumor. So you got two negative catalysts, and therefore they're down 9% this morning. Not the greatest trader of all times. It's a little thin, but with those catalysts, it might actually, be interesting.
Yeah, that's not great for them. The daily also looking nice for a possible breakdown here. If we can, if volume does come in, you need some volume in here. Let's put it as a possible for now, because again, that double that catalyst there being negative could affect things there. Here is the giant Alphabet, Google, however you want to describe it, down today 7%. Norm, latest and greatest.
Yep, they had earnings last night. They had some serious deceleration in YouTube ad growth. So it kind of knew this was coming, but it ugly, and they're not a big, I think they had some hits in cloud. So just overall pretty nasty quarter and concerning earnings release.
Yeah. Right now, great volume, 1.2 million shares traded. We've been talking about Google after their split here. They haven't been a great intraday trader like Amazon has been. But today, guys, with this type of news, you're definitely going to see this in play, and it might trade better than it does on regular days. So definitely worth watching. This other one here is, which one is the better one? It's a GL, right?
I'm always going to pick unless 99 out of 100 times. Let me not say always. I don't want to talk in absolutes. 99 out of 100 times, I'm going to pick the one with the greater volume.
Okay, out of both of these, right? Yeah, the 1.2,
but
1.2.
That having been said, I still don't like trading Google. It just doesn't trade well for me.
Yeah,
today might be the outlier. If any day is going to be an outlier, it's going to be today. But it's still not the prettiest chart in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. The pre-market's got some good volume, but again, not the best. Here is Snow. We've seen this before. I know we've seen it go crazy, gap up and down. Very risky, guys. I mean, this thing can move very aggressive. It's very thin on volume. I actually had this on my watch list before in the past, and when I saw the price action, I mean, it is scary stuff with the spread and everything. So I'm not a big fan of it, So
you've got a spread of like $1.50 there, it seems. Oh no, it's not as bad as I thought. But anyway, it can be rough. This is a cloud company gapping down on sympathy with some of the others.
Gotcha. So again, I won't
But
be adding
like you
that to the
said, it
list.
won't be
Yeah.
on my list just because it sucks to trade.
It's really bad. I'd rather watch STX, to be honest. I think this will be if you want to watch one of these type of plays, STX would probably be better. Meta this morning. Meta, they are down 4.5, 488,000 shares traded. This could be okay. I personally don't like the way Meta trades. I'll be honest. I know a lot of you guys trade this one. I don't like the way
You're
it
wrong.
moves. You know, I know I could be. I just don't like the way it trades. What's the latest and greatest on it? Any news today?
Well, they report after the bell, but they're getting hit. I mean, obviously, their business is digital advertising, and after the Google YouTube earnings release and guidance, they're getting hit on that sympathy. But they, like I said, they report after the bell today, so should be interesting.
So I'll put it here on my secondary list. I did skip Microsoft. I think it was bouncing back and forth here. But yeah, Microsoft took a big hit yesterday as well, down 7.7% here, 1.5 million. I definitely love Microsoft this morning. I think they'll be very active. Similar information to
Well, they had earnings last
earnings.
night. And they're talking about a slowdown due to decreased PC demand, therefore Windows platforms not selling at the rate they had been and such. So, amongst other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Microsoft on deck as well. Heading down, guys, we have Amazon this morning, and they are down 3.6. Amazon had earnings yesterday, or this is a sympathy?
No. They have earnings tomorrow. They're gapping down in sympathy.
Okay, that's a big sympathy move for these guys.
They've got cloud business. They've got digital advertising business.
Yeah,
so
I forgot about that. AWS, I completely forgot about that. I'm just thinking retail. I'm like, why are they gapping down so much? But you're right. They're big. They're big on this
AWS is a huge part of their business, and digital advertising has become that as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Amazon on deck, guys. We have Snap here, which again, yesterday the move. It's insane what this thing has done over the last couple of days. Okay, news with all the ban of TikTok and all this other stuff, but look at the continuation yesterday. I'm not aware of any new news came out on that whole issue, but this thing,
no, there's nothing going on with that right now. This is this is sympathy down move with the other digital advertising stuff.
Yeah, no, but I'm speaking like yesterday. Why did it move so aggressive yesterday? It's just my thing on it. Just weird, but Snap could be a good secondary, guys. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything great today, but yesterday was just wild. Nvidia's on deck this morning, down 2.5. Again, also moving pretty decent here. I like Nvidia. Trades very well.
So let me hit a couple of these. You got Nvidia and AMD. We're going to be coming upon here in just a second. The first major semiconductor player that reports generally during earnings season is Texas Instruments, TXN. They reported some weak results, so semis in general are getting hit. It's sympathy to this one, so.
Yeah, TXM here again. They don't trade well. We had this on our list before, so I won't have them on my list. They're very light on volume, but maybe a possible sympathy move on these guys can turn out.
I'd rather trade a sympathy move on an AMD or an Nvidia.
Oh yeah, facts, 100%. Wow, I haven't looked at this ticker in quite some time. AMC. And there's nothing to really look at here, so I'm just gonna move on.
There's really AMC?
Yeah, AMC is not doing anything, but I haven't looked at this. Yeah. And it's popped up and
it's up and down and
up and down. Yeah. Nothing to see. I was more excited than what this actually looks. So let's move on to something else. AMD we have, and then here's Billy. Billy this morning, not doing a whole lot, and then we have Mara. Mara's dropping quite a bit in the green earlier, now dropping some more here. Big day yesterday. I like Mara today. Let's see where that goes. Mara could be decent this morning. All right, that's what we have, guys. Not a bad list. Very heavy on some tech stuff here, obviously, with everything going on, and then the cloud services and all of that. Norm, anything that we don't have here that you like today?
Boeing.
Oh, that's right. Boeing had
earnings this morning.
Yeah. Yep.
I just put up my trade from earlier on it. Yeah, they had earnings this morning. Their reported number was atrocious.
What was it? Like two something,
They were
right?
expected to have essentially a break-even EPS number, a 1 cent loss. They ended up with a $6.18 loss, and their revenue was almost $3 billion light on a number just shy of 19 estimate, just shy of 19 billion. They took a couple of massive charges, mostly related to government work. Air Force One was a big part of it. I think some tankers as well. So the numbers aren't quite as bad as they seemed. I played the reaction on that. But yeah, they're definitely, and they had some good news in there. Hamish makes a very good point, but um, they're definitely, they're not on our gappers because they don't hit the 2% threshold up or
Right,
down. They've
right.
definitely got volume. To see Boeing trade almost 1 million shares,
Heavy
haven't
volume.
seen that really happen since Max, the 737 Max 8 stuff. In pre-market, it's going to be a good one to trade today.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I like Boeing. When Boeing has news, it trades very well, guys. It really does. And speak of Norm, this is an incredible trade here, playing the overreaction, as you can see.
Yeah,
Beautiful
I got it at
entry.
141, and
Yeah.
I took off like 10% at 143 just to get a little something to feel better
Mm-hmm,
about it.
mm-hmm. Yep,
You
yep.
can't see it on that chart, but it came up to the 50 moving average. It was right at 145 or a little bit more. The 50 moving average on the daily, so I took the rest of it off there.
Very nice, very nice.
Things trade very thin that early in the morning.
Yeah,
That was well
yeah.
over an hour ago at this point, so there's not a whole lot. I took a chance on it. My risk was roughly $1.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
got 4 on it, so I'm happy with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So yeah, Boeing definitely in play, guys. Won't be in the scanner since we get above or below 2%. But like you mentioned, the volume 945,000. That is big volume for a BA. I see a couple of you guys throwing out ENPH. This one, man, we used to trade this quite a bit in the past. Right now, 6%, 101,000 shares traded. Yeah, just so thin though. That's the problem with this thing, with this EMPH. It's so thin. So I'd rather watch something today that's going to give me a lot more volume. And I think the plays today are going to be in these really big tech company guys. I mean, that's just my thought
I
on
think
it.
ENPH will likely get the volume.
Hmm.
They had earnings last night. They've got a catalyst. It might be a decent trader. So
Yeah. I'll add it to our secondary list. I just don't see how they beat some of the stuff we have on our main list. But yeah, we'll see. Could be the sleeper for today, right? Not a whole lot going on right now. And like you said, if they get volume, maybe they can create some opportunities. All right, let's take it over to our chat this morning. We have Tesla. Yes, Tesla has been it's been always great. Yesterday had a really big day, really nice intraday action. This morning already 683,000, which is typical volume for Tesla. We will put that on there as well. Heading down, EMPH also moved. Yep. All right. Baba. I'm not seeing a whole lot of Chinese action this morning. What's Baba up to? Baba is. Did they have anything come up? I mean, they're dropping here, but I don't see any. Well, their volume
are
is
they
really good though.
dropping 5 cents?
Well, no, I'm saying no. It's just from here to here. No,
Oh,
not the overall gap down. Yeah, they're not doing much there. But as far as that, I don't see anything with the Chinese tickers, guys, this morning. Neo, same thing. Just got a red to green, green to red drop here. But for the most part, not doing a whole lot. Neo was another one too that took off yesterday, guys. If you saw that, this thing was on fire as well. Yeah, so I'm not seeing anything great on it right now. I do like Baba, so maybe I'll watch one of the Chinese tickers, see if anything comes out of that. HOG. This is Harley Davidson. Yeah, these guys don't
yeah,
trade well.
they don't trade
Even on
very well.
earnings, I don't. It doesn't really matter what the news is. They're just really bad. So I don't watch these guys. I don't think I ever traded them. Roblox could be interesting. RBLX, if I can type. RBLX. There we go. No, not right now. Not right now. I mean, they're pretty much flat at the moment. Volume is a little bit light, so I don't see anything happening. Now, again, this reminds me a little bit of Oxy because look at their pre-market activity this morning. It's nothing going on. Pre-market activity yesterday, there was nothing going on. And look at, you got an initial pop there and a possible continuation. So I guess the pre-market, you can't tell too much. You got to wait for the market open on Roblox. But for the most part, I'm not seeing anything great on it at the moment. Speaking of Oxy, let's take a look at Oxy there. So you guys are throwing that out as well. Man, what a brutal day on Oxy. This was nasty yesterday. So again, no indication how that's going to be. This is a great ticker to wait for it on scanners, right? Because when it hits the scanners, it's getting volume, or at least hitting some high of the day stuff or some momentum, turbo breakup, turbo breakdown. Daily looks good. I like the daily on it, but it's just not much you can go on right now. PDD dropping. Yeah, I see a couple of Chinese tickers, having this initial drop here, right? From wherever they're located. So yeah, you got a few of them, Neo, Baba, they're all doing this drop here. A lot of them bouncing yesterday. Maybe today they're looking to give some back. But I have Baba on there. I'll keep that one. AMAT, Applied Materials, another one that doesn't intraday trade very well. So I normally don't have this one on my list, even when it has news. It's just one of these tickers that for me, I prefer to watch something else. Phil, the sleeper list is back. Yeah, the sleeper list on ENPAs. That's our sleeper for today. Let's see what happens. KHC. What is that?
Kraft Heinz.
Oh yeah, there we go.
No.
Kraft Heinz. No, another guy. This is brutal.
Yeah, that one's tough. Doesn't do a whole lot.
It reminds me of KO, like this, huge tickers. It just don't move.
Every once in a while, they may have something going on. I don't know that today's it.
Yeah, it's got to be something really big, But yeah, BBBY earnings. What we got going on? No, we got a little move here.
Well, they were memeing a bit yesterday, but their interim CEO that they appointed, remember their CEO split because his turnaround wasn't turning around. It was just getting worse.
Yeah.
That was a few months ago. They appointed an interim CEO. She's taking over permanently, and they're getting smashed on that.
Okay. All right. So little action there. Again, I just don't know how great this ticker is going to be. I think the stuff we have on our list looks a lot better this morning. So we'll see. And plus, they're getting under this $5 price, which I really don't like. Anyway, so yeah, they're crappy. All right, we're set,
guys.
They
used to be fun.
Yeah, they were fun. Now it's just that.
I don't see how they don't go bankrupt.
They're I'm surprised they haven't yet, man. With everything that has happened, I'm surprised you guys are still somehow alive.
They're like hanging on to the edge of like the tallest building in the world by their fingernails right now.
yeah, it's insane. It really is. All right, guys, let's take it to our website, bearbootraders.com, where you can find what's happening with our webinars for the next 2 weeks. Go to bearbootraders.com and then over to webinars so you can see what's happening.
Yeah, before we dig into that, I do want to say something because it was asked. Somebody asked my thoughts on the Mobileye IPO today. First of all, ask Peter because he's really our IPO guy. But I'll just say, there have been very few IPOs, especially decent ones recently. When the market sucks like this, companies don't like to go public. They'd much rather hold off and wait for a better market so that their stock can actually do something after opening. Mobileye is this is a spinoff from Intel, their automated driving unit. It's a strong enough spinoff, strong enough company that they can IPO perhaps successfully. But anyway, and INT, and Hamish makes a great point. INTC only placing a small proportion of its overall position, so it's just a small chunk of it. I don't know how it'll trade. If any of them have a chance, I think it's a pretty decent one. So,
but
keep your eye out for that opening.
What's the ticker for that? Do you know the ticker?
MLBY, I believe, but I'm not 100. You probably won't even find anything. You probably won't pull up anything right now.
Yeah, now I'm just gonna put it here.
You can try.
We can look at it later. No, nothing will come up.
Yeah, nothing there. MBLY.
MBLY.
You got it backward. Yeah.
MBLY. Here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's halted.
Priced at 21.
Yeah.
So that'll open later today.
All right. Just be careful,
It's a
guys.
good, Robert. That's a
Yeah.
good. I mean, it's a good sign when the pricing is above the expected range. That doesn't mean it will not open at 21. It'll open
Yeah.
above or
Yeah.
below. It's very rare for it to actually open at that price, especially in a hyped IPO, which this one is a little bit hyped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
All right.
I think it's
Excellent.
hyped. I think it's hyped only because there's
Intel.
no other IPOs to talk about. There's just
Okay.
been a dearth of that kind of activity.
Yeah. And again, guys, you've seen what's been happening with these IPOs where they shoot up to this ridiculous price, right? Just be careful. I'm not saying that's going to happen with this, but we've seen some just madness on these IPOs. People just pushing it up for no reason. So careful with that.
All right. Every Monday, onboarding technology with Carlos, 8 p.m. Eastern, open to all membership categories and even non-members. If you go to bearbulltraders.com and you provide your email at the top of the homepage, in that email capture, it'll send you a reminder on Monday, a couple hours before the start, and give you a direct link to go to that. So check that out. Tuesdays, strategy. Will you figure out what's going on with that today, Carlos?
Yeah, I'll get with
if Mike is here
Mike. Yeah,
to reschedule that for next week, and then VPA, the how, that's Thor's rescheduled success webinar. That'll be November 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's election day. I don't know how Thor will have his crowd there, but all right. Psychology. Randy Howell, 8 p.m. Eastern. That is tonight. He's going to be talking about chasing losers. Don't do it. Next week, Dr. Kenneth Reed, 5 p.m. Eastern. This is a scheduling deal since we're all going to be in Florida to be able to record it for everybody. We moved it up a little bit. That's Dr. Kenneth Reed talking about handling pressure. Every Thursday, we do mentorship, 11 a.m. with John and 8 p.m. with Thor. Don't forget about tradingterminal.com, or one-stop shop for all your trading info, including scanners, news, research, all kinds of stuff. And you can get to the simulator from there or directly by going to stocktradingsimulator.com, where you can use our free web-based replay simulator, hone your trading skills 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, you'd like to try out the chat, you can use the promo code PreMarket24 to get a discount on the intro membership, which is no obligation. One-time charge, does not recur. Gives you 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room. Also, use the promo code READ50 to get half off the Elite Annual membership with a free one-on-one coaching session with Dr. Kenneth Reed included.
All right. Thank you very much, Norm, for that. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Let's fine tune this list here. Let's go ahead and do some levels and see what is happening here. We'll start with Google today. So right now, again, we're down 6.3. Great volume this morning. Not the best trader, but today we'll see if we can get some pretty good activity out of this thing. Low of the pre-market 97.15. Is that correct here? Yeah, 97.15. Low of our pre-market there, and then below that we do have an area all the way down to 94.48. So again, good level of support. This is where we've been kind of finding the main support over the last couple of days. As you look across the board there, that 97 has been an area where it's been liking that for as far as support. Towards the top, the high of the pre-market, we are looking at 98.71. So slamming level there as well. So that is for Google this morning. As far as that, if you look outside of the price action, outside of this range, you do have highs and lows in the last 2 trading days up here. You also have some daily averages as well coming in there around 100. So you got a lot going on there on Google this morning. Next, we have Microsoft, guys, and here we have again some really good volume, 1.8 million on Microsoft right now. Low of the pre-market 233.27. So let's slam one there, and then towards the bottom again, another. Looks like a lot of these gap downs are just coming down to where they have found support, right? So no mystery, you're finding a lot of support where we had support in the past, and you can see that there on that 233.30, 27 or so. A couple of levels towards the bottom in case we do decide to drop here. We do have 228, and then the big one here on a 219.39. So a couple of stuff towards the bottom there. Above the price action, we're looking at 237.32. And then above this, you do have your highs and lows for the last 2 trading days. So that's doing a pretty good job there. You can see too how much these levels are being used on the daily, right? So if you look at this high of the pre-market now, that has been an area where this thing has really banged its head on a few times. So definitely want to have that on there on your list. Amazon this morning also active, almost 1 million shares traded, being hit on their cloud services and other stuff that's happening, advertising. So right here, 115.71 is the low of the pre-market at the moment. Actually, no, take that back. I'm going to leave this 115.71, but your low of your pre-market is all the way down here in this one candle at 115. I will still leave this on here because this area is where you're getting a lot of support in the pre-market. You tested that a couple of times already. So I will leave this level here. That's going to be probably more important than this pre-market low at the moment. If we lose that, you could touch a good possibility to head towards that 115. Right now, we're looking to bounce at the moment. High of the pre-market is 117. You do have a daily level here from the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. That is, you can see, is also being flirted with this morning as the price action is right on that for Amazon. All right, outside big picture on the daily highs and lows of the last 2 trading days towards the top. Towards the bottom, we definitely want to have something below this 115 if we do decide to drop. And that level is going to be 113.50. And then here 109, and then all the way down here 106 again. We're not getting to 106 today unless the wheels really fall off this thing. But it's there. It's there. Very clear. This level sticks out like a sore thumb. Let's mark it down. Here is NVIDIA, guys. Remove some of those older levels, clean this up a little bit. A big day yesterday, great trading day yesterday. 128.61 is the low of the pre-market, and 130 is your high. Once you put those two in there, you look at the big picture here, and we are basically between our highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. Inside day of the range from yesterday as well. I don't think you really need to add anything else unless you start breaking out of this range from yesterday's action, right? So you got plenty of levels here towards the top, 132. Towards the bottom, you got the lows of yesterday, the highs of the day before, over around 126, 127. You're set. You're really set on NVIDIA. Let's take a look at AMD this morning. Similar action to NVIDIA. You got the big day yesterday. We are playing the inside range this morning of that 60.15. No, low of the pre-market is a little bit lower. 60.06 right over here, and then the high of the pre-market over at 60.74. Now, AMD's pre-market action nowhere near as good as we would like to see. Only 365,000 shares traded, but we hope that's going to get better. We know it's going to get the volume. Hopefully we can trade anywhere decent would be nice. Again, NVIDIA has been trading much better for me as far as clean price action. But let's see if AMD could do some clean stuff today. Here is Mara. So Mara has been putting in a couple of nice days in here. I did not have it on deck yesterday, but put in a real nice day. This morning, they're active as well with 470,000. I'm getting a little bit of a drop here from the highs, right? So the highs at 15. Now we're down 50 cents or so, but into the red, which is interesting. So I like them this morning. So I like what's going on here. Low of the pre-market 14.12. Over to the top, I'm gonna mark this down here, this bounce that we're getting of 1440, so that's good. And then our high of our pre-market 1506. So we're gonna mark those levels in there. I think that's a good things to have in case this thing does decide to break out. Above 1506, I mean, this thing is not looking that strong right now. And also you're hitting an area where you had resistance in the past. So you're kind of struggling around that 1506. But if we were to break out of that, we do have a 1573. I'm going to mark that there on our daily where we had this little pop before we came back down to the 1506 area. We're going to mark that down just in case it does decide to turn around here. And then towards the bottom, I like this level here over at 1380. Got a couple of days slamming against that. So definitely want to have that on deck in case we do decide to drop any lower here. Here's BA, guys. Volume is insane. BA is going to trade very well today because when it has this type of pre-market volume, it tends to do really nice. and they can trade well intraday action when they have news and this type of activity so far in the morning. I'm marking down a couple of levels here: 140.24 high, low of the pre-market, 144.22, getting a nice little bounce off of that now, so we'll leave that there as well. And then the high of the pre-market, you're looking at 150 on the dot for the high of the pre-market. Zooming out on the daily, towards the bottom, highs and lows for the last 2 trading days, between a lot of it between your 144 that we just marked down and your low of your pre-market, right? It's just kind of right in this area. So you got a lot of stuff going on down there. Don't need to add anything else. Looks like they're every dollar: 144, 143, 42, and 140. So plenty of stuff happening there. Let's head over to the left now. Above this 150, if we do decide to shoot up again, what do we have above here? Daily's not the best, but we do have right over here 155-ish. Couple of days slamming against that. So that's good to have their support, resistance. Yeah, that'll be a good one. 155 for BA there, as far as we can see now. All right, so far we have Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, Mara, and BA for the most part. I like this list this morning. Yeah, this should be a whole lot of fun. I think BA's is earnings. I believe earnings, right? So that's BA's deal today. All right, coin. Cindy, is coin moving to? Yeah, I like Mara today, but coin, not as great as, well, they had the big day yesterday too, right? But yeah, I prefer Mara at times. But yeah, either one of those you can watch today. I'm gonna keep Mara on deck. I like this pre-market activity we're getting now. I like the day we had yesterday. So let's see how that turns out. Potential possibles this morning. We have Tesla, which is probably should be on our main list. Tesla's going to be insane. We have Snap here. We have Meta. We have STX, ENPH. A lot of these that can really get going. So it's a whole lot for you to watch this morning in all type of different areas, right? So you can pick out your favorite list based on what you like. I see some of the moderators lists are already on deck here. So if I looked over, I do have Peter and Thor. So we'll get to those in just a second here and see what our moderators are watching this morning. How does Norm trade pre-market? What do you mean specifically though? Like, what do you mean by how he actually does the physical trading, as far as hitting the hotkey, or how can he trade and do the show? Carlos Apizes, but what's the verdict on Microsoft? Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft is active, guys. This thing is in play today. This thing is definitely in play today. It's got great volume. I mean, 2 million shares traded right now. We got our level set, which is kind of playing between some of the daily levels here. If you look at the bigger picture, right? It is weak right now, down 7%. Looks like it wants to break the low of the pre-market here. So yeah, this thing is going to be in play today. So I'm not sure what your question as far as the verdict, but yeah, it's going to be active with many of these tickers, like Google earnings, Microsoft earnings. Got some sympathy plays. These two giants are causing a lot of sympathy move as well that are going to be possibly in play to take advantage of.
I can talk about that Boeing real quick if you want.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's bring up Boeing.
Can you pull it? You pull it up.
Yep. Then pull up your trade.
Do you need me to put it here? Can you pull it up, or do you want me to paste it back in the room?
Let me scroll up.
Here, make it easy for you. There you go.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So I knew Boeing was expected to report at 7:30 Eastern. I was here working, doing my normal morning research. I wanted to listen to it. They were expected to have a EPS loss of roughly a penny. They've actually had some okay news recently. And they came out, and this thing dropped hard. I mean, and things trade really thin. I did not take a lot of shares on this. I did not take a huge amount of risk. But I saw it drop. I waited for it to chill for a second. So the news came out that they were expected to lose 1 penny per share. EPS came in at a loss of $6.18, which is obviously massive a massive loss compared to that. The revenue came in at $15.96 billion versus an estimate of almost $18.9, so a huge miss on revenue as well. I realized they must have had a charge in there that they'd taken that things had not digested quite yet. So I gave it a shot. Took a tiny, not tiny, but not big size on it. Gave it the loss of 140 as my stop. And there's a 50 moving average. I figured it would get a pop back. I took a small partial as we got the initial pop through 143. There was a moving average on the daily, 50 moving average right at 145. So I took the rest off there. That's it. Yeah. I just anticipate it was an overreaction based solely on the number before the actual breakdown of the earnings was digested and understood. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent trade, man. Excellent trade. All right, so hopefully that answers your questions there over on YouTube. Better to not have verdicts in trading. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have. It depends, man. You don't want to have a bias where to the point that it affects your decision making, right? But there are traders that do want to go in with a thesis, right? With an idea of, okay, the SPY's doing this today. I'm going to be looking for short opportunities, right? What you don't want to do is be so heavily biased on something that you're forcing to see something that's not there. You're forcing yourself to see something that's not really happening, and that can mess up your trading, right? Just don't want your decision making to be affected by that. But yeah, we'll see. Like for example, right now, if someone looks at Microsoft, well, it's weak. But how many times have we seen stuff be weak and at the market open, it is along the entire day closing a gap, right? We've seen that so many times. So you just got to be prepared that anything can happen and will happen. And if you believe that, you got to be prepared that if things are not going your way, make the best decision to either get out of a trade or manage it properly. Is there a webinar on pre-market analysis? There is a class, not an actual webinar, because again, I don't think we could talk about 45 minutes about it, but there is an actual class on it where we talk about what's a good pre-market action, bad pre-market action. Basically, everything that we're doing here, there's an entire class
that's what this is, guys. That was the entire point of this pre-market show. Was before we started doing this, which amazingly will be 4 years ago, 4 years in January.
Crazy.
It's insane. Yeah. But we it used to be Andrew would come into the room. Nobody was on the mic before that. He would come to the room like 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe before the market opened, and then pick a few tickers, look at the gappers one by one, pick a few tickers and roll with it. Because once you do this enough, it gets very fast. I mean, in reality, Carlos or I could assemble our list in about 5 minutes, maybe 10, and look at the analysis. But we like to walk people through it, especially the newer people, slow it down a little bit, go through the thinking on why we're looking at what we are and what we're thinking about it, and pick those. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. I have Peter, I have Thor, and that's it for our watch list today. So let's look at those. Peter will be looking at AMD, Google, Microsoft, secondary list, BA, KHC, and a Texas Instrument here. Thor, we're looking at BA, the Qs, Microsoft, and Google as well. So that's what you have right now for your moderating list. Everybody else is still putting their list together. Here it is, buzzer beater. We have Brian. So Brian will be trading live in just a second here, or coming on in just a second, trading live at 9:30 in the chat. Brian looking at BA, Google, and Microsoft this morning. So guys, there's a lot to see today. I have one too many probably here. I'm going to fine tune this a little bit more as we move into our next time frame here. Microsoft losing it a bit. Man, it's going to be interesting.
Guys, important. We've got literally one seat left for Florida. We cannot increase it. We're at the maximum room capacity. We've already increased the room size. So if you want to come hang out with us next Wednesday, please check that out at bearbulltraders.com/workshop as soon as you can to pick that up. There's one seat left.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. One thing to that too, there was I was going back and forth with someone that's going to be there, and they was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go, but I'm not gonna trade my live account because I don't want to have the pressure." You don't have to trade your live account when you're there. You can even do your SIM account.
Do a SIM. You don't have to trade at all.
Don't have to trade at all. And just take everything in. So don't feel like you have to do that if you're not that confident yet. It's not easy to trade in front of people. I'll tell you that right now.
No, I agree.
It's not easy, right? So just
especially
come
in something
to
like that.
learn. Come to learn, right? So
Somebody's
guys.
asking, are they anybody golfing in Florida? I think some of the members are putting together some golf like the day before or day after. It's not an official golfing event by BBT. We are let me take me out of that. I don't run, but I know that the whoever does our runners they suggested to Andrew a morning run before the event on Wednesday, so there is going to be a community run.
Yeah, that should be
And
fun.
like you said, it's it can be tough to trade, especially in a weird environment. Like some of the best trading I've done is when I'm with the mod group. Like when we traded, God, it's been a while. I can't believe it's been so long now. But Vancouver, we had like 7 of the mods there last year. Did the pre-market show and traded. Had some great trades, but that's a little bit different than a big group in a strange setting like this where you don't really know everybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for joining us. Brian is adding XTX, and we also have Paris in here. He is looking at Microsoft, Google, BA, Tesla, and Apple. All right, guys, take care. Trade safe. We will see you guys tomorrow, 8 a.m. Remember, Engineering the Markets with Jared. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. 167 likes so far. If we can get to 200, that would be amazing. But thank you so much, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.